Will we be reunited with family in heaven? And this freaks some of us out. Why? Because we have really weird families. How many of you are a member of a weird family? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you come from a completely normal family? Raise your hand up. Okay, you probably have the weirdest families of all. Because you're so weird, you don't think you're weird. So I admit it. I know there's weird people in my family, and I'll even acknowledge to being one of those weird people. So when we think of a heavenly reunion with and I'm talking primarily of extended family, but it could be immediate family too. When you think of that, it's like, I don't know if I want to be stuck for all eternity with that weird uncle. Well, look, if that weird uncle's a Christian and he's in heaven, he's not going to be weird anymore. Because he'll be in a glorified state. And you're not going to be either, because you'll be in a glorified state. But will we be married in heaven? Well, let me take a quick poll. How many of you would like to be married in heaven? Raise your hand up. Interesting. That wasn't a lot of hands. Are we all singles here? Let me ask you another question. How many of you are married? Raise your hand. That's very interesting. So you're married, but you don't want to be married in heaven. So, let's take the poll one more time. How many of you want to be married in heaven? Raise your hand. Oh, a little more. But see, you're struggling because you're saying, but I already read that I'm not going to be married in heaven. So I don't know if I want to say I do want to be married. Well, let's sort of figure this out here for a moment. You still will have relationships in heaven that you had on earth. Receiving a glorified body and be relocated doesn't mean that history is erased. It means history culminates. We can't take material things with us to heaven, but we can take relationships with us, all right? So let's consider this wacky question from the Sadducees. Okay, so there was this woman, and she's married, and her first husband dies. Then she marries his brother, and he dies. Then she marries another brother, he dies. And marries another brother, he dies. And 7 brothers are all dead. Now, whose wife is she in the resurrection? They think this is going to be something that will confuse Jesus. Like, oh no, I don't know what to say. Because their whole point is, see, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, this whole resurrection idea. What about this? And they make this whole wacky story up. First thing I would have said if I were Jesus is, what is the deal with this woman? What is she cooking for these husbands? Why would like the 4th guy in still want to marry her? Is this a good thing to do? Jesus puts him in her place. He says, your problem is, verse 29, you don't know the scriptures or the power of God. For when the dead raise, they won't be married. They'll be like the angels in heaven. So the Bible teaches there's no marriage in heaven, right? No, the Bible does not teach that. There is marriage in heaven. Some of you are going, uh-oh. But it will be a marriage between Jesus Christ and his bride, the church. That's the marriage in heaven. So what about our relationships one with another as husbands and wives? Randy Alcorn in his excellent book, Heaven, says, and I quote, earthly marriage is a shadow, an echo of the true and ultimate marriage. The purpose of marriage is not to replace heaven, but to prepare us for it. He also says God's plan doesn't stop in heaven and the new earth, it continues. God doesn't abandon his purposes, he fulfills them. Friendships and relationships begun on earth will continue in heaven, richer than ever. So, no, we won't be married to each other like we are now, but we'll still be connected to each other, related to each other. In fact, our relationships will even be stronger, you see. This is the hope of every follower of Jesus Christ, to be one day in heaven.